Wow, and it's Peter Orazem.
Peter Orazem.
I'm sorry, Orazem. See, I got that wrong again. So, Orazem.
Orazem.
Damn it! Just a second. Can you change your name for this interview? It'd be so much easier.
Absolutely, you can change it.
Now, broadcasting live from the Podcast Palace on Park Street in beautiful and dangerous Clearwater, Florida. It's the Comedians Uncorked podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Tony Gaud and Pat Largo.
Hey, welcome to the Comedians Uncorked podcast with Tony Gaud. My name is Pat Largo, and once again, dude, this is great. This is historic because this is actually episode 12, season 1. We are wrapping up our first season.
Yes. Doing
the Comedians Uncorked podcast. Shout out to all of the YouTube people and Spotify people and everyone supporting us and listening on various platforms. A huge shout out to our studio sponsor, Miss Julie Drolshagen of Century 21 right here in Clearwater, Florida. It's still a seller's market, man, and she's going to help you out buying or selling. Give her a shout at 727-902-9233, FloridaBeachBusiness.com.
FloridaBeachBusiness.com.
And don't forget to get us at ComediansUncorked.com. Anywhere at Comedians Uncorked, and thanks for subscribing to our YouTube channel or on Instagram, Facebook.
Yes, definitely.
This right here, our next guest here coming up, we did this a few episodes ago here in season 1 about a Iowa State Cyclones professor. He's an economics professor who also incorporates stand-up comedy in his class. So we have this gentleman on. He is economics professor Pete Orazem from Iowa State University. We think you're going to like this. Enjoy.
Check it out.
All right. So, Orazem.
Orazem.
Damn it. Just a second. That was a test. Peter Orazem. But I am speaking with Peter Orazem, economics professor from Iowa State University. The Cyclones, right?
The Cyclones. That's absolutely correct.
And I know that because I briefly did radio with a partner here in Tampa back in 95, going into early 96 for about 9-10 months in the Quad Cities.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Cool.
So,
John Deere.
Yes. So, Peter, now you're an economics professor. First off, how long have you been in the game of teaching, either from at Iowa State or just in general? How long have you been in the teaching game?
I started here at Iowa State in 1982. I finished my PhD at Yale that year, and so I've pretty much been at Iowa State ever since I finished my PhD.
That's really cool, man, and we appreciate what you do because we know teaching is no easy task. It doesn't matter what school or what grade and stuff like that. So thank you, sir, for being a teacher and a professor and making young people go out into the world with a better light, and we appreciate that. And because we don't do that down here in Florida, we just party. I mean, people we have good schools. I'm not saying that some smart people don't graduate, but we rather just party in the sunshine and on the beaches.
People aspire to earn enough money in order to move to Florida. That's true. It's
true. And we make jokes about that. Everyone has the Florida man stories that they talk about. And yeah, we got our issues. No doubt about that. We have a governor that should be a pro wrestler, the way he cuts promos. And cool, man. He kept us open and we had some people working at least. Everyone makes fun of him.
In Minnesota, we had a governor who was a pro wrestler, Jesse Ventura.
Jesse the Body. That's right.
That's right.
Now, Tony Gaud, my co-host here for the Comedians Uncorked podcast, we went over the story about you guys a few weeks ago, and it warmed our hearts. And I said, man, I got to get a hold of these guys and see if we can bring them on. So thank you again for being on with us. So I'm going to let you describe it. But if memory serves, you and I think some other folks at Iowa State have is it a class, a comedy class or a stand-up class? But somehow you're incorporating the wonderful world of comedy into the teachings. Can you fill us in on this?
It's an honors class. We call it Comedy College, and I'm actually the teaching assistant. So it's taught by Gavin Jerome, who was a touring comedian for 15 years. He now does more corporate and television stuff. But he started teaching a class where you would have he would basically teach you how to write jokes and then how to deliver. And for years they'd been asking. I took his class in 2000 at the local Lions Club. I would do charity gigs, in and around the Midwest, in and around middle of Iowa mainly.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a show in Des Moines, and Gavin was in the audience, and I saw him, and I said, they've been asking me to teach this honors class on stand-up comedy, but I just know how I do comedy, but you've actually seen all the big names. Would you be willing to teach the class? And he said, sure, if you're willing to be the teaching assistant. And so we've been teaching it off and on ever since. So we're in about, I think this will be our 11th edition of Comedy College this spring.
Well, so you were doing stand-up yourself then, which is really pretty cool.
Yeah. Amateur, right? So you do 3 or 4 gigs, and you try to raise money for charity at a Unitarian church or something like that, but not the kind of heavy duty stuff if you're going every night traveling the circuit. But I have a good paying main job, so
Hence,
you have to be a little bit hungry, I think, to really be a true comedian.
Yeah, hence the title of professor. Yeah, I'd stay where you were too. You're good. Yes, exactly. That's why you got an office with books behind you, and I got a fake brick wall behind me. So
but it looks good.
Big difference. But you're right. It's a different lifestyle. The road comics are the ones. I have friends of mine who are just nothing but road comics, and I say nothing but in a loving way because that's what they want to do. And it is a tough profession when you're that way, when you're literally driving gig to gig and not knowing if you're going to get to the next gig due to weather, due to lack of money, due to health, due to just your car or vehicle not performing. It's a wacky business, man. So now let's get to you've been doing this for a while with Gavin and yourself. So, and I assume you have more coming up in the future with your classes. So how do the students that you have embrace this? Like, they know they're getting into it, or do they come into class and you say, hey, we're going to do some jokes? How does that work?
We had 3 people in our last class who said they came to Iowa State specifically to take this class.
Nice.
Engineers or their math majors. We on occasion even have someone who has a degree in theater, but for the most part, they're people who are challenging themselves and taking this as this. If I can get up in front of an audience and do 10 minutes of material I wrote, I can do anything in terms of presenting, regardless of what profession we go into. And, some of our alumni are physicians. One of them is in a PhD program in aerospace at MIT.
Wow.
They're really, really bright people, but they want a chance to get in front of an audience. And I will tell you, we had one student who her father said, if you can get my daughter to do 10 minutes of stand-up, I want you to come and teach my engineers how to make presentations. And he ended up hiring Gavin to go down to Kansas City to talk to their professional staff on how you make good, entertaining, but effective presentations to clients.
And especially engineers, they're the ones with that bumper sticker that's like just saying, hey, let's just assume that I know everything and you don't.
Well, I'll tell you, even if you're not an engineer, one of our students was in journalism. She said she never really learned how to write until she took the stand-up class, because you have to be efficient to be an effective comedian, right? So you work backwards from the punchline, and the more time it takes you from the setup to the punchline, the better the joke has to be, or you're wasting people's time. And she ended up learning how to trim her stuff. So she's effectively in marketing now. Mm-hmm. She amazes people. They'll give her a page of material. She gives them back a third of a page. It has the same information, but it's much more effective because it's not taking as much time to get to the punchline.
Yeah.
So learning how to write jokes well makes you a much more effective communicator.
Yeah, brevity is good, and depending on your style, like you said, are you the one-liner person, set up punchline, set up like a Larry the Cable Guy kind of thing?
Yeah.
If you're telling stories like Ron White or other people, you want that laughter every few seconds, and some people don't get that when they're telling stories. It's different. You can tell a longer joke and not have as many laughs, so long as the punchline is really hilarious.
Right. The hardest thing to teach is storytelling. And if you're a storytelling comedian, you have to understand that length is not your friend. You have to have enough jokes sort of tied into your material to keep the audience engaged.
Right. Correct. Exactly. That's cool. And isn't it amazing how something, I don't want to say as simple as comedy or stand-up comedy, but because it's still the number one fear, right? Besides death, really the number one fear is public speaking. It's like it hasn't changed in all this since I've been going to school. It's never changed. So, it's amazing how people who are very intelligent, like you said, engineers and other mathematicians, and believe me, some of those people are stuffy shirts. They need some of the comedy in their life. But again, we say it because we love. But I mean, it's nice to know. It's great to be the most intelligent person in the room. But when you're the one that's not smiling or laughing, that's awesome that they came in and said, listen, I want to do this because I know I can do math. I can do this. I'm the smartest person in the room, but I would love to be able to be a bit warmer, ingratiate myself, and to even do a joke and take a joke. And it's amazing. I tell people when you put the pen to paper, your hand just automatically flows. It's just the ideas, whatever you want to do. It could be poetry, writing a song, comedy, just put good old fashioned pen to paper and just watch what happens, So
absolutely. I mean, if you look at good comedians, they're really fast on their feet, right? So they're always thinking. It's a much tougher gig than, say, presenting something that somebody else has written out for you. And so over time, you start seeing that the kids in the class are also becoming quicker in terms of how they react to the stuff that their other friends are presenting in the class. And so, you treat each class as a workshop, and you're throwing out ideas, and eventually you start finding that the members of the class are teaching the other members of the class because they're the audience, but also thinking about how they would present the material and throwing out their own ideas as they go.
I like it. Now, how many kids right now are going this semester coming up? I assume you're doing this again. And then are there any, do they graduate into upcoming shows, or how does that work? I think you guys do some shows around town, or at least around Iowa, correct?
We have done alumni shows in different places around Iowa. We've been asked to go up to the Twin Cities because we have enough alumni in the Twin Cities to do a show for the Iowa State Alumni Association. We'll see if we can do that, but and we do have some people who will do stand-up. One of our very first students will do warm-up acts in Cedar Rapids for touring comedians.
Okay.
We did the showcase this last December at a local bar, and they basically wanted the names of all the students and information so that they could serve as warm-ups for touring comedians as they come through Ames. So you do get an opportunity if you want to jump in.
Nice.
They can do a solid 10.
Good. And clubs in Ames, off the top of my head, is there a Funny Bone?
The Funny Bone is in Des Moines. So the big clubs are in Des Moines. What we have in Ames is a music venue, and we have the maintenance shop, which is in the student union. It'll seat 150 people, and it's a great place for stand-up comedy because it's almost like theater in the round.
Perfect. No, I love that. And the music place, is that their name, or do you want to give them a plug?
Well, DJs, but yeah.
So, all right. So that's like the closest comedy clubs basically in Ames. And that's great. just that's some of the stuff I do here in Florida. When I'm not at clubs, I book my own Comedians on Cork shows at golf course, banquet halls and stuff like that. And that's all you need. It's perfect. It's beautiful. So, so when people come in, any students right now, they're actually doing comedy full time or doing any road work or anything like that have been in your class?
Well, no, I mean, in fact, the closest, I suppose, is one of our students who does color commentary for the women's basketball.
Okay.
At Iowa State. And a lot of people will just, every once in a while, just show up to open mic. And one of our students was in Boston, and she did an open mic in Boston, and a professional comedian came up to her afterwards and said, "Man, you remind me of Stephen Wright."
Oh, jeez.
Whoa. Because Stephen Wright was her favorite comedian. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. And being in Boston, if you're just doing an open mic, that's a real tough place to be cutting teeth,
Absolutely.
So that's really cool.
So we do also have a stand-up club, and more of the people who come out of the stand-up club, which is, it was founded by people in the class, but
okay.
Other people can come through that. So some of those people have gone in and are trying to establish a career.
I love it. Well, let's plug it up. In the meantime, do we have any events coming up here in the new year in 2022 with you guys? Plug any shows coming up, how people can get a hold of you, or if they want to be a part, if they're coming to Iowa State, how they may be able to get into this class. So just give us any kind of information or plugs you would like to give us, Peter.
Well, we know that the honors program will continue teaching this class. It's one of the most popular classes that we offer, in fact, but you have to be a member of the honors program. So we don't have and that's just the way it is. The honors program, we're very happy that they are willing to house us, and it's a fun class for them, and it's a fun class for their students. We will be having our showcase night it looks like it'll be the last Monday and Wednesday of April.
Okay.
But school starts today, so we haven't gotten all our ducks in a row. Gavin is trying to set up another alumni event in Des Moines, but we don't know when that would be.
Okay.
The one we had was sold out, and frankly, if you've gone through the class, you ought to be able to deliver 10 minutes and do a decent job. So the shows are pretty solid.
That's what we like to hear. And today's the first day of school back, and you look pretty sober. So God bless you.
Well, it's one in the afternoon. We don't start drinking till 2. So
fantastic. That's happy hour. That's Midwest happy hour right there. I love it. So you're a big comedian. Tell me a joke.
Oh, you don't to start.
No, I wanted to see what your reaction was, because don't you hate when people say that? That's all we ever get. Oh, you do commit? Tell me a joke.
It's sort of interesting. The pandemic, probably the hardest thing in the pandemic is to be a comedian, right? I mean, it doesn't convert well to virtual environments, right? You need to have a live audience, and you need to have somebody who can come in. But I was so enthusiastic. We got our vaccine, and then we got the booster, and then we got the flu shot. So for a while there, I was immortal, but it wears off, unfortunately. But eventually, everybody in the world is going to be immune from everything except comedy, and so comedy will still be the last virus that but will amuse the population. So
right. There is no booster to stop my horrific punchlines. I'll tell you that.
That's right.
So I like it. You're right, though, man. Well, good. Well, Professor of Economics, Peter Orazem. I knew it. Just checking. That was a test. Orazem. Well, thanks for being a part of this podcast, man. And real quick, do you have a Facebook page or a website for you guys?
The comedy stand-up comedy club has a Facebook page, but I will tell you, it wouldn't be a bad idea if you guys are interested to interview some of the students later on, especially if this is something that some of your listeners are interested in. We had an exceptional class this last year. Of course, they're always exceptional.
Good.
But I do think that it would be interesting to get their reactions to what it's like to have to start off from scratch at the beginning of the semester and within 16 weeks be able to deliver a solid 10 minutes of original material. And
I'll tell you what, Professor Peter Orazem, did I nail it?
That's exactly correct.
Thank you. See, if I'm trying to teach you how to pronounce your own name, for God's sake, Peter. Professor of Economics at Iowa State. I love it. Thank you for being on, and we'll definitely be in touch, and we'll have some of your students. We'll get some of their clips on the podcast too, and that's going to be great. So I will leave you with this. Thank you for being on again. Thanks for teaching free speech, which is beautiful. And as I always say, laugh, you deserve it. And thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you, Pat. It's a pleasure.
That was Professor Pete Orazem, Iowa State University. And I hope they keep going, man. I love it. I love the story. And hopefully we'll have some of his students on in the near future. And I just love that. To me, that's what comedy is all about, man.
Yeah, it would be very cool to see some of the students end up on the road, out there doing it for real, doing their thing, traveling. Yeah. But this is, like you said, this is a follow-up to a news story that we read on the show. So you can go back and you can check out that story as well, and then catch up with the whole thing. And yeah, shout out to them. Appreciating the comedy.
It's awesome. And you heard it. Some of them are getting on the road a little bit, and that's what it's all about, man. And we're going to have, again, this interview and so much more on our YouTube channel. Thank you again for hitting subscribe on that, catching us at comediansuncorked.com, Facebook, Instagram, and back to YouTube channel. We do post a few things per week, 3, 4, 5, sometimes more different elements a week on our YouTube channel, clips of our interviews and stuff like that. So again, thanks for clicking that subscribe button.
Yeah, we got exclusive segments on the YouTube channel that you're not going to get on the podcast. So make sure you check that out. You want to participate? It's participatory.
That's what we like to see, including where they at and different things like that, all kinds of news. So again, thanks for helping us wrap up season 1 of Comedians Uncorked podcast. For Tony Gaud, my name is Pat Largo. And again, thank you to Julie Drolls-Hagen of Century 21. And we'll catch you coming up soon on season 2 of our Comedians Uncorked podcast. Laugh, you deserve it. Thanks so much.
You're putting up with the Comedians Uncorked podcast, live from the Sunshine State, Florida.